right, today we're exploring some restricted, top secret, dangerous islands.
Yeah, so if you booked a vacation to any of these, you might want to get your money back because I'm guessing it was a scam.
Yeah, let's get right into it. And we're starting things off in Australia with Heard Island. If you're not into getting swallowed up by lava, you'll probably want to stay away from this place. And even if the idea of that entices you for whatever reason, you weirdo, well, you're not allowed to go anyway. It's all in the title of the video you just clicked on, Restricted Islands. So this place is very unique, but also incredibly treacherous. First off, let's talk weather. Heard Island is no stranger to wild and unpredictable conditions. It's notorious for its harsh climate, with constant storms and heavy precipitation. The winds here can be downright ferocious, sometimes a Category 3 hurricane level of force. Just not ideal conditions to pull up in a boat and set up camp. Another thing that makes visiting this place unappealing is the terrain. It's just full of glaciers, rocky peaks, and active volcanoes. Big Bend, the island's highest peak, is a hotspot for volcanic activity. It's just a horrible concoction of the worst weather conditions possible. Intense wind, ice, lava, and on top of all that, it's one of the most isolated places on the face of the earth. So a rescue mission would just be a logistical nightmare. If something goes sideways, help is not just a phone call away. I mean, you can call, they just won't get there in any due time.
All right, you guys, next up we've got Runit Island, located in the Marshall Islands. And while its land and waters are stunning, what I tell you next might just ruin it for you. I'm so sorry. Anyways, do you like radioactive waste? If you said yes, that's super weird, but okay. You've probably guessed by now that Runit has a fair amount of radioactive waste, in which case you'd be right. But do you know how much? That's right, Runit is home to an estimated 73,000 cubic meters of radioactive debris, which are all stored inside a massive 18-inch thick concrete dome located on the island. By the way, that's the equivalent of 73 million liters of waste. Throughout history, the United States conducted 43 nuclear tests on the island, at least one of which spread little bits of plutonium all over the island. Because of this, while you can boat around Runit's shoreline, a 25,000-year restriction has been placed on the island itself. Very much a don't look, don't touch kind of situation.
Next up on the list, we have Diego Garcia. Now this has to be one of the most secretive US military bases in the entire world. It's also said to be one of the most strategically advantageous, so it's no surprise how super locked down it is. And on top of that, there's also a lot of controversy tied to this place. Diego Garcia is a small atoll in the Indian Ocean. It's part of the British Indian Ocean Territory, but the US military basically set up shop and turned it into one of their most prized bases. During the Cold War, they decided this atoll was the ideal spot for a Navy and Air Force base. And that's because it's a prime location that allows for quick access to the Middle East, Africa, and Asia. There are some interesting but very disturbing theories about Diego Garcia. One is that there's a big secret military prison on the island that carries out incredibly harsh punishments and interrogations, a place where enemies of the country are whisked away and never seen again. And of course, because the place is cut off from the mainland, it would also be a pretty good spot for some top secret, highly advanced weapons testing. No surprises here, but this is not a place the general public is allowed to add to their next vacation destination, unless you've been messing around, F around and find out, right?
Next up, we've got North Brother Island, located in New York City's East River and, of course, banned to the public. The island was actually purchased by New York in 1855 so that they could build the Riverside Hospital, which was used to isolate and treat people with contagious diseases such as typhus, smallpox, measles, tuberculosis, and yellow fever. The island was also home to one Typhoid Mary, the woman who is single-handedly attributed to the spread of typhoid fever. Rough title, but fitting, I suppose. Beyond the many individuals who would have died while receiving treatment in the Riverside Hospital, in 1905, over 1,000 deaths occurred in the waters surrounding the island after a steamship caught fire near its shores. After the tragedy, the island shut down for a while, but it was reopened after the First World War as housing for war veterans. After that, it was used to treat heroin addicts. Eventually, in 1963, the hospital shut its doors for good and the island was fully evacuated. Today, it is strictly off limits, inhabited only by overgrown weeds that have taken over roads and walkways, deteriorated and highly unstable buildings, and various forms of wildlife.
Next on the list is Bouvet Island, which happens to be the most isolated place on Earth, sitting far out in the South Atlantic Ocean. It's as remote gets. There's literally nothing around for thousands of miles. No neighbors, no nearby countries, just the vast open ocean. And that's a pretty frightening idea. If you found yourself in a bad situation here, good luck. And it's also a frozen chunk of rock and ice, constantly being battered by fierce winds and rough, choppy water. The weather is notoriously unpredictable, and storms can hit out of nowhere. It's basically uninhabitable. I mean, it is. The only people who are ever able to set foot here are the very occasional research teams or fishermen.
Next up, we've got the Farallon Islands, commonly referred to as the Devil's Teeth. If the name alone isn't enough to keep you away, I can give you 3 things that might do the trick. Shoals, sharks, and radioactive waste. Not to mention, it's illegal. So let's start with the shoals, shall we? Treacherous underwater terrain with the ability to shred the bottom of sea vessels. I'd say that's a pretty major hazard for any boat trying to get close to the shores of the island, which is the only way to get onto it. Next, we have sharks, which highly populate the surrounding waters of Farallon Island. And finally, the one we've all been waiting for, radioactive waste. How much? Not much. Just 47,800 drums full that are estimated to be slowly leaking their radioactive insides into the water surrounding the islands, contaminating the fish and sharks. You want to deal with radioactive sharks? Cause I don't. What I'm trying to say is that while I'm sure a few of you love the idea of breaking rules and challenging authority, I am begging you, please don't go here, because chances are you won't even make it onto the island. And even if you somehow do, all you're gonna find is a crap ton of aggressive, overgrown rodents. So 10 out of 10, it's not worth it.
The next creepy island on the list is Gas Mask Island in Japan. Now, I know what you're all thinking. I mean, you hear that title, and it's just like, wow, that sounds like a pleasant family getaway. And in all honesty, that may be the case today. It does look like a beautiful spot, but at one time this place was a complete ghost town, and it could be, again, really at any time. And that's because Miyakojima is a volcanic island. The reason it earned the nickname Gas Mask Island is because of its history with volcanic activity, particularly the high levels of sulfur dioxide gas spewing out of its active volcano. Back in 2000, the situation got pretty serious. The volcano started belching out way more sulfur dioxide than usual, making it the air quality downright dangerous. So in response, the Japanese government were forced to evacuate the entire population of the island. People were required to wear gas masks when they returned to their homes to gather belongings or check on things, and even when people were allowed to come back fully in 2005, people had to wear gas masks all the time. Now things have settled down a bit, but living on this island means being prepared for potential evacuations and harmful gases in the future. So residents are required to own gas masks. Even if you're just visiting, you gotta buy one, because at any time the volcano may start acting up again.
Next up, we've got Devil's Island, home to one of the most infamous prison systems in history. Crimes of those imprisoned on the island's penitentiary range from offending Napoleon III, vicious killings, or just simply existing in some cases. The conditions of this prison were less than savory. In fact, some people have referred to the penitentiary as the most feared prison in modern history. The prisoners who survived the journey to the island, which not all did due to treacherous waters and dangerous shores, were locked in cages, underfed, and used as inexpensive laborers, forced to work naked in waters up to their waists. And if they didn't live up to the impossibly high standards set by the prison guards, they were punished with steam and sulfur. Between the years of 1852 and 1938, over 56,000, mostly male prisoners were sent to the island. 90% died as a direct result of mistreatment and disease due to the unsanitary conditions of the grounds. The prison finally shut down in 1953, and since then the island has remained uninhabited. Due to rough waters and the harsh terrain surrounding the island, it has been deemed unsafe to enter, and therefore all visitation has been strictly banned and prohibited.
Now we head to the inhospitable Antipodes Islands just south of New Zealand. Not only are these islands completely inhospitable, they're mountainous with incredibly harsh winds, and they're also volcanic. And there have been a number of shipwrecks on these islands. A ship called the Spirit of the Dawn, carrying 16 people, got into trouble and crashed off the main island's coast in 1893. There were 11 survivors, and for 87 days they were stuck on the island surviving on raw mutton birds. Luckily, their makeshift flag caught the attention of a ship and they were rescued, and there have been other wrecks, but as recently as 1999, a yacht met its unfortunate end at the Antipodes. 2 lives were lost, Gary Clark and Roger Sale.
And finally, to finish us off today, we have Gruinard Island in Scotland, home to highly unethical experiments involving livestock and anthrax contamination. It was 1942 when the British military began experimenting on Gruinard Island with the highly lethal biochemical weapon known as anthrax. And if that wasn't bad enough, part of the experimentation process involved populating the island with a total of 80 sheep, and then detonating a number of bombs filled with the infectious disease, covering the island in a lethal aerosol cloud that took out the entire sheep population within just a few days. The testing done on the island was actually in preparation for Operation Vegetarian, which thankfully never took place, but it was an attack strategy created by the British designed to take out their German adversaries at the time. Attempts to decontaminate the island were made, including bombarding it with napalm, but the anthrax spores were resilient and remained in the air and highly infectious, which is rightfully so why the island remains under permanent quarantine to this day.
All right, folks, what did you think of this video? Let us know down in the comments below, and what's your favorite top secret island?
Yeah, or if you have like any others you can think of, let us know in the comments. We will be checking them out, maybe shouting a few of you guys out in the next video, so stay tuned. I'm Hannah.
I'm James.
And we'll see you in the next video.
It's all in the title of the video you just clicked on. Restricted Islands. Video? All right, we'll go with it. It's a video. On the island surviving on raw mutton birds. Do you like the idea of eating raw birds?
It sounds disgusting.
Sounds appetizing. Just chomping down on a raw bird spine, just feathers in your mouth. Ugh.
Gruinard. I think I have to say it like a Scottish person would. Gruinard.
Have you ever been to a mysterious island before?
No.
Top secret?
I've been to like little tiny, but never like creepy.
Okay.
It was so
Sounds like you have been to one. You're just trying to hide it.